third IVF cycle, which Dr. Chan asked me, hey, do you want to do the third one? And I said we couldn't control my reaction to my body. I wasn't really reacting very positively to the dosage, and the LH kept going up. So what are we going to do different about the third one? And Dr. Chan at first didn't have a response. Then later when we had a follow-up, she mentioned that she would suggest me to do a micro dose flare protocol. This protocol is mostly done for people who are above 40, and it has been successful for quite a lot of folks. So how this protocol works is you're supposed to take birth control pills for a certain time, and then that is the thing that controls your LH. Once that controls it, and then you can start with the same medicines or a little bit different, and then that's pretty much it. So the medicines that I took for my third IVF was 10 Marvelon, that's the birth control pill, 15 Superfact, 12 Gonal, so I changed from Recovil to Gonal, and 12 Menopur, 5 Olglutron, and then progesterone oil. So when you say progesterone pill to progesterone oil, you know that the third one did actually become an IVF, a successful IVF. But yeah, so I'll tell you about that cycle. So my IVF, the third one, I asked my doctor. She told me this protocol, and I said, what is the chances of me succeeding? And she said that there's the same chances and I can try it, but because I've never really gone through the IVF process, it's worth a try. So I told her that I would wait for government funding since I'm already becoming 40 soonish, so I wouldn't want to experiment with my money since I already put that much money in the first 2 rounds. And Dr. Chan was pretty comfortable or very accommodating, and she said it's okay. So we waited, and she actually made sure that we were put in a priority list. She made sure that we were considered. So I was called. Funny thing is, I was called for a government funding, almost as I don't remember exactly when, but I had the government funding from Dr. Tanya Williams as well, before I had done the IVF procedure at Markham. We didn't go for Dr. Tanya Williams, and I'll probably provide you the price, the difference between the prices. It's going to be in my link below in the description of my YouTube. I'll provide that, and I will also provide you the link to my blog where I have it as well. However, for this one, what we did was we waited for the government funding, and we got it in April. We actually began in May. The April was just the cycle monitoring, but we actually did the procedure in May. So in that one, I already mentioned to you what the medicines that we were taking. What happened in this cycle? So we were able to successfully control my LH. I was able to grow good 2 embryos, and I'll just check what were the size of those 2 embryos. So the size was on day 15 I had 1.9, 1.4, and 1.7. So it was close enough. So the day 17 we did the egg retrieval, and by that time it was 2.0, and then the other one were fine. Like we had 3 eggs in total, so 1.8 is still good enough for the doctor to or the embryologist to create an embryo. And then the other one that I had was 1.4, so the third one wasn't that great. From that experience that I had, they called me for egg retrieval. I was put under anesthesia. Yeah, I was put under sleep basically, and then very lightly, not too much, so like I'm still awake, but I was put so that I don't feel so much pain. I was they did retrieve the eggs, and then the embryologist told me that they're going to call me after a few days to let me know whether the eggs and the sperm were able to create the embryo. So I prayed a lot. I prayed day and night. I prayed every night, hoping that the eggs would survive. So the first call that came, I think a couple of days later, she was happy to tell us that the embryos were grade A or 8. Basically, they were just good embryos, very good ones. And then the third one, she said she will let us know if it grows or not. So it didn't grow, the third one, and I was still hopeful that I said to myself, it's okay, at least we still have 2. So the 2 eggs, the embryo was good enough, and the doctor said, okay, you can come and we will put those eggs. So that we retrieved on day 17. I was called back on day 20 to transfer those 2 embryos back inside me. I had to, I believe I had to drink a lot of water in one of these procedures. And for the transferring of the embryos, you have to stay awake. The embryologist just checks whether if he puts it in a petri dish, the doctor sees it, she puts it inside the tube. She doesn't do it, the embryologist puts it inside the tube, and all she does is make sure that it is going up high up in the uterus. And yeah, that's pretty much it from the procedure point of view. After I had that done, I wasn't supposed to do too many physical activities and basically rest, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So I had a lot of symptoms of pregnancy to the time where I was scheduled for the pregnancy test. So I had the symptoms of vomiting, breast tenderness, as well as I had some cramps, but these cramps are not like period cramps. They're like something that pulls your tummy. So I had those, and I actually felt like I was pregnant because very likely. And we went for 2 embryos because it was in the government rules, it's written if you're above 40, you have the option to have more embryos transferred. So we did transfer 2 embryos, and we were happy if we had twins. We weren't worried about that. Long story short, the date that I was supposed to go for my pregnancy test, I lost symptoms of all pregnancy, and I had a really bad feeling. I was crying, and I just kept praying to God that I was wrong about it. And then I didn't wanted to lose hope and faith, so I just kept praying throughout the night. And then I think I was called. I just was very worried, and I just kept praying. So on the day of my pregnancy test, I woke up early morning, and my whole I went to pee, and I felt like the whole bottom of my uterus just came crumbling down. I found a lot of blood. The day before, it was light spotting, so I wasn't too worried because I read that spotting is okay. And by the way, those who are considering, oh hey, what is this spotting, is it common, not common? If it's spotting, meaning if it's thick, it's definitely not normal. It definitely means you're not pregnant. If it doesn't have any clot, and if it's just light bleeding, very light, pinkish shade, then you're good. So yeah, anyways, I was very scared, and I had a bad feeling because literally everything was coming out of me. Anyhow, I was still positive, and I kept praying throughout my bus trip to the hospital. And when I went to the hospital, I was so worried that I didn't wait for my test. I went directly to the nurse, and let them know about my situation. And by the time I reached there, I went to the washroom as well, and I was already bleeding quite heavily. I think everybody knows that it is not easy. I was crying a lot. I was literally shaking and crying, and the nurse already told me that that could be a miscarriage, and there's no way for me to confirm that I was pregnant because I already got the miscarriage before I could do the pregnancy test. Regardless, I took it anyways just to confirm, and yeah, so I didn't get pregnant. And the saddest part is I still have the Ep3 dish of the embryo, and yeah, I was very sad. Anyways, so I asked my doctor to, yeah, I didn't get a call from my doctor. I didn't get it the same day. She was scheduled probably a week later or so. Yeah, so sorry. I met with Dr. Chan whenever that scheduled call was, 1 week or 2 weeks later, and she confirmed that I was pregnant temporarily, and I probably had that miscarriage. So I asked her why that miscarriage happened, and she said that it was because of bad quality of eggs because of my age, and my next option would be either I go for donor eggs or try again. And to be honest, I was really tired. I didn't like what she was telling me. I didn't have the courage, the confidence, or the strength to go for another IVF round. I was not sure what to do, but I thought the best thing at that point is to make sure that my uterus is cleaned, since there was a baby there. So I asked her to please clean my uterus and make that a priority, because I didn't want it to get infections. I asked Dr. Chan to clean my uterus, and she said that she will do a hysteroscopy, and that is basically checking to see if there is any problem with your uterus as well as your cervix. So I was scheduled to go in, and Dr. Chan met me very nicely. So she basically, they just put the saline water in there, and she checked, and she saw that she couldn't see clearly, but she knew that the fallopian tubes were open. So she said those were open, and she could see that there is a polyp there. The polyp wasn't a big size, so she asked me if I wanted to get removed. Most people don't get it removed if it's a very small size, and that was it. So I told her that I want to get it removed, and she said, oh sorry, I told her that I don't want to get it removed since it's not mandatory, it's not a big size. And she said that's fine. If I don't want it, she can put me in the waiting list, and even if I don't want to do it at a later point in time, it's fine, and it's covered by OHIP. So just make sure, if you're in Ontario and you're doing all of these things, please make sure you're covered in OHIP, because these procedures can cost a lot. So I said, okay, fine, I don't mind to be on the waiting list. Anyhow, long story short, I actually asked my sister to help me find another fertility doctor, so that I can get a second opinion about this removal of the polyp. And the other doctors that I met, which were virtually, they suggested that I should remove the polyp right away, because that can hinder the fertility. And it's good because if I do get pregnant during this whole process, it can impact the embryo implantation. So I asked Dr. Chan if we could schedule it, and I started in April of 2024. The IVF failed around May, and then I cleaned somewhere maybe in June, and then I didn't get an appointment until October 11th for the cleaning of my polyp. So you can just imagine how much wait time there is. And when I went to the clinic or the hospital, Markham Fertility Hospital, they were very nice, but they said that the amount that I waited was not any different. It's normal. People wait for a year, so just be prepared for that. Doing fertility treatment is not easy in Canada. You need to have insurance with your workplace. Not every workplace covers it. It takes about two weeks to get healed completely. Yeah, so that's my IVF journey. You need to definitely make sure you're living somewhere like in Toronto or Vancouver, because fertility treatment is much easier in these two provinces as far as I know. I don't know about Alberta, maybe that's better as well. But if you're in like Fredericton, which is very far, treatments are very difficult. Just imagine like in Ontario, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, that's the waiting time. So for far-flung places, I don't know what's gonna happen there. The other thing is, yeah, I will list down all the medicines as well as the protocol that I have. So feel free to ask me any questions if you like my video, or if you have any feedback, do let me know. So yeah, see you then.